It begins with the rivers. One morning, across every continent, water flows red like thick blood. From kitchen sinks to mountain springs, the stench of iron fills the air. Panic erupts. Within hours, frogs rise from sewers in unimaginable numbers, clogging engines, covering streets, infiltrating homes. And it doesn't stop. Lice infest the world's densest cities. Wild beasts roam suburbia. A plague spreads that wipes out every cow, pig, and chicken in existence. Hail falls like meteors. Fire rains from the sky. The sun disappears for 3 days. And then, the firstborn begin to die. This isn't ancient history. This is now. What if the 10 biblical plagues of Exodus returned? Not as metaphor, but as reality, unfolding one by one in our hyper-connected, digital, fragile, modern world. This isn't just a religious horror story. It's a total systems failure. It's the unraveling of everything. Civilization stripped to its knees in the face of ancient divine wrath. The 10 plagues of Exodus are among the most terrifying supernatural events ever recorded in religious history. Famously unleashed upon Egypt in the Old Testament as a divine response to human oppression. For centuries, these plagues have been interpreted as symbols, stories, or spiritual metaphors. But in this thought experiment, we'll take them literally. And imagine, what if these exact 10 catastrophes were to descend upon the modern world, one after the other, in perfect biblical order? And here's the real twist. In 2025, humanity is more vulnerable than ever. Not because we're weaker, but because we're hyper-connected. Cities are denser, supply chains more delicate, and our very survival depends on global coordination. Our food comes from factories, our power from centralized grids, our health from strained systems. In ancient times, plagues could devastate one kingdom. Today, they could end everything. Each plague isn't just a supernatural oddity, it's a chain reaction. Blood in the water. Say goodbye to drinking supplies and agriculture. Frogs everywhere. Urban paralysis, lice, and disease. A medical system collapse. And that's only the beginning. This isn't a simple case of religious judgment. It's a countdown to human extinction. So in this nightmare scenario, we'll walk through what happens plague by plague, tracing how each one could cripple the systems we rely on. From clean water to supply chains, from internet infrastructure to psychological stability. By the end, we'll be standing among the ash and rubble, asking ourselves, how close are we already to a world that could fall apart this fast? Let's begin with the first sign, when the world's water turns to blood and everything starts to unravel. Blood in the water, global panic and water infrastructure collapse. It begins with disbelief. Social media floods with videos of red water gushing from taps, fountains, and irrigation pipes. At first, many assume it's a prank, a viral marketing stunt, or industrial contamination. But when the phenomenon reaches every country, every river, reservoir, and aquifer, panic erupts. The entire planet's freshwater supply has turned to blood. No purification system can reverse it. Water treatment plants go offline within hours, overwhelmed and rendered useless by what is essentially thick organic sludge. Boiling it changes nothing. Filtering it results in clogs and foul, smelling goo. This isn't symbolic, it's actual blood, sticky, coppery, and teeming with decaying cells. Collapse begins in 24 hours. Within a single day, supermarkets are looted for bottled water. Private companies hike prices to absurd levels until they realize their stocks, too, are compromised. Panic riots begin at gas stations, ports, and emergency water stations. Countries begin enforcing martial law over reservoirs, but it's already too late. Agriculture grinds to a halt. Crops can't be watered. Livestock can't drink. Hydration systems, from rural irrigation to vertical urban farms, go offline. Entire cities are placed on emergency rations. Those who can't afford private filtration or black market water face dehydration within days. Even industries outside of food begin crumbling. Power plants that require water cooling are forced to shut down. Factories, hospitals, and data centers lose climate control systems. The internet starts flickering with outages. Cloud servers are shutting down from overheating. Religious panic meets scientific breakdown. Governments scramble for answers. Scientists perform chemical analysis and confirm it's real blood, not a mimic. Religious leaders call it divine judgment. A global psychological fracture forms between rationalists and spiritualists. Is this climate collapse, terrorism, or something older, unexplainable? By day 3, bottled water becomes more valuable than gold. Refugee caravans form around known freshwater glaciers and natural ice sources, but even snowmelt begins running red. Water smugglers become the new power brokers. Organized crime syndicates take over distribution routes in parts of Africa, Southeast Asia, and Eastern Europe. In the U.S., rural militias block access to mountain springs. The moral collapse of modern society. Humanity doesn't just thirst, it turns on itself. Parents fight over water for their children. Nations begin hoarding and militarizing the last few freshwater stores, breaking international treaties. The UN is paralyzed. The World Health Organization collapses under the weight of a global medical panic. Cases of dehydration, panic, induced heart failure, and exits skyrocket. And all the while, the rivers bleed on. Just when it seems it couldn't get worse, millions of bloated, croaking frogs begin crawling out of every sewer, lake, and drain, drowning the world in a living, suffocating tide. Frogs everywhere. Ecological Overload and Public Health Disaster Day 4. As humanity still reels from the water crisis, another horror begins. It starts with a low, distant croaking. Then, out of toilets, sinks, drainage ditches, gutters, and sewers, they come. Frogs, millions, then billions. From the Amazon to Tokyo, frogs emerge in numbers too vast to comprehend. It's not a simple increase in population, but a flood, covering highways, airport runways, subway tunnels, and entire city blocks. They pour from underground like an ecological tsunami, coating everything in a slick, squirming, deafening wave of green and brown. Urban life halts instantly. Within hours, urban transportation collapses. Buses can't move without crushing piles of writhing amphibians. Trains derail after hitting swollen, slippery tracks. Roads are impassable. Airports shut down completely as frogs coat runways and clog aircraft engines. The scent of decaying organic matter becomes overpowering. Buildings begin to smell of mold, rot, and amphibian waste. Ventilation systems are overwhelmed. Hospitals, still packed from the dehydration crisis, now contend with amphibian infiltration. Emergency surgeries are delayed because frogs leap onto operating tables mid-procedure. Health hazards multiply. Frogs are not just an inconvenience, they're a biological threat. Their droppings contaminate every surface. Their decomposing bodies spread disease. Food storage is compromised. Warehouses overrun. Restaurants, supermarkets, and home kitchens become breeding grounds for bacterial outbreaks. Cases of salmonella, leptospirosis, and parasitic infections spike globally. Governments initiate mass extermination campaigns, but the scale is futile. Pesticides fail. Frogs breed faster than they die. Burning them causes toxic smoke. Poisoning them contaminates the few remaining water sources. Even AI-powered robotics, deployed in high-tech nations to assist with cleanup, become jammed and short-circuit under the living weight. Religious and cultural mayhem. Religious panic intensifies. Some declare this a second plague, and that resistance is blasphemy. Others demand action, even human sacrifice, to end the punishment. Mass protests erupt in capitals. Riots break out in supermarkets hoarding uncontaminated food. Government leaders either resign in disgrace or seize emergency powers. Across social media, footage of frog-covered homes and streets loops endlessly. Memes turn to hysteria. Frogpacalypse trends for exactly 6 hours before the global internet slows to a crawl. Tech workers, now trapped in homes buried under amphibians, abandon their posts. Even Elon Musk can't evacuate his launch pads. SpaceX grounds every mission after frogs short-circuit the launch bays. Nature pushes back. The ecological balance shifts. With so many frogs devouring insects, birds begin starving. Reptilian and predatory species boom, feeding on the endless buffet. Ecosystems rupture. Crops already crippled by water issues now suffer a new threat: competing swarms of frog, eating predators. Military deployments are issued to major metropolitan areas. Entire city zones are burned to the ground just to restore access. But nothing works. Frogs keep coming, rotting and croaking, forming knee-deep layers of slick death. By week's end, the global GDP has already collapsed by 18%. Trade has halted. Food is spoiled, water is gone, and the smell, the stench of death and decay, hangs in the air like a curtain no one can pull back. But then, something smaller arrives, quieter, but even more insidious. The air grows thick, skin begins to itch. Microscopic parasites spread through the very fabric of humanity's last defenses. If the blood in frogs were terrifying because of their scale, this plague is different, quieter, more intimate, and far more maddening. It begins subtly, an itch behind the ear, a tickle on the scalp. Then, outbreaks. Everywhere. Lice infestations in every school, hospital, prison, aircraft, cabin, military bunker. By the millions. But these aren't ordinary lice. They are resilient, immune to every known insecticide, larger than typical parasites, and they spread with supernatural speed. Within 48 hours, the world's population is crawling with them. Inescapable contamination. Everyone, children, world leaders, refugees, celebrities, everyone is infested. Lice fill every bed, couch, car seat, airplane, cabin. They crawl inside clothing, ears, eyelids. Military uniforms offer no protection. Hazmat suits are breached. No amount of combing, shaving, or scrubbing can keep up. They spread not just through hair, but clothes, fabrics, carpets, subway seats. Hospitals and nursing homes are the worst hit, already overcrowded and now turning away patients because of overwhelming contamination. Medical professionals weakened by dehydration and frog-borne illnesses start collapsing. Even the dead are not spared. Morgues become breeding zones. Bodies awaiting burial or burning begin to burst with insect larvae as lice consume everything soft and organic. Mental collapse follows physical collapse. The global psychological toll is immense. Mental health lines crash under the weight of mass psychosis. News anchors begin scratching uncontrollably on air. Entire governments suspend press briefings after officials begin twitching and clawing at their own skin during live broadcasts. Sleep becomes impossible. People claw at themselves until they bleed. Exits increase dramatically. Cults form in quarantine zones, claiming the lice are divine messengers or microscopic demons. Some people begin covering themselves in tar or gasoline in desperation, often setting themselves on fire to escape the crawling sensation. The wealthiest attempt to flee to islands or submarines, but even luxury bunkers are compromised. The lice spread via cargo ships, drones, even through diplomatic luggage. Nowhere is safe. No one is clean. Scientific panic and biosecurity collapse. Laboratories go dark. Biosecurity personnel, trained for Ebola, anthrax, even nuclear cleanup, are overwhelmed. Every containment protocol fails. Any attempt to study the lice is met with failure. They escape labs, chew through cages, infest staff. Universities and medical schools are shut down. There's no one left to research, no way to respond. The World Health Organization is gone. The CDC is down to a few underground offices. AI systems programmed to detect biological anomalies flood their databases with red alerts and then crash from overload. With no working supply chains and no sanitation, lice begin feeding on malnourished skin. Open sores become common. Infections multiply. Children go blind from infestations in their eyes. Adults cough up blood from parasites blocking their nasal cavities. Governments stop trying to hide the truth. The headlines read like biblical prophecy. Third plague confirmed. Global infestation now uncontainable. The human body. The final sanctuary of the individual is no longer private, no longer sovereign. We are being consumed alive, not by war or explosion, but by an army you can't even see until it's too late. But then, the scratching and scuttling are replaced by growls and howls. From the wilderness, from zoos, from labs and forests, they come. Wild beasts, drawn by the scent of death and decay. Civilization is no longer just falling, it's being hunted. Wild beasts, cities overrun by predators by now. The world is on its knees. Infrastructure is paralyzed, bodies itch and rot. Clean water is a myth, and frogs still pile in the gutters like fleshy sludge. But nothing prepares humanity for what comes next. Not insects, not blood, not plague. Predators, unleashed everywhere. It begins with zoo breaches. Security systems fail and blackout, stricken cities. Lions, tigers, bears, wolves, and hyenas escape into the streets. But soon it becomes clear. This isn't a coincidence. Wild animals, far from docile or confused, move with predatory coordination. In New York, a pack of wolves tears through Central Park and into Harlem. In Tokyo, venomous snakes slither from underground metro tunnels. In Nairobi, leopards race down city highways. In Rio de Janeiro, jaguars stalk favelas. And it's not just wild animals. Domestic pets turn feral, as if driven mad by a primal instinct, biting, clawing, attacking even their owners. Urban jungle, literally. The world's major cities begin to resemble prehistoric forests. Streets become hunting grounds. Parks are filled with growls. Skyscrapers hide terrified survivors while drones capture disturbing footage. Tigers feasting on a school bus. Gorillas smashing barricades. Crocodiles dragging the desperate into flood canals. Livestock, weakened by thirst and disease, are wiped out by scavengers. But the animals don't stop there. They hunt humans now, not as a rare encounter, but as prey. Entire refugee convoys disappear overnight. Forests around encampments grow silent, except for the low rumble of approaching death. Governments try to militarize a response. Drones and ground troops are deployed, but soldiers fall faster than they can report. Machine gun fire cannot keep up with waves of predators coordinated by a force that feels unnatural. Some animals seem unaffected by bullets. Some walk through fire. Something ancient drives them. Spiritual madness and global retreat. Religious panic spirals into madness. In the Philippines, cults declare the beasts are manifestations of wrathful angels. In the American Midwest, militias start sacrificing prisoners in hopes of appeasement. In India, some revere the beasts as vengeful avatars of divine retribution. Urban flight accelerates. Survivors flee from cities to mountains, deserts, oceans, anywhere the beasts might not follow. But animals now appear in regions where they never belonged. Polar bears in the Andes, jaguars in Iceland, scorpions in Canadian suburbs. Predators roam places no natural migration could explain. Borders mean nothing. Collapse of defense and psychological control. The psychological toll is devastating. Humanity, already fragile from weeks of disaster, now lives in paranoid silence. Doors are triple locked. Firearms are distributed widely. But food is gone, water is gone, and no one dares step outside. Every rustle, every creak is met with panicked silence. Media networks go offline. Anchors presumed dead after animals breach studio safe zones. Governments dissolve into ghost operations. Some leaders are presumed eaten. Others commit exit on live streams. The animal kingdom has risen, and human civilization is prey. And in the ashes of every fallen city, the frogs rot, the lice thrive, and the beasts now rule the night. But even the beasts can't survive what comes next. The real famine begins, not just of food or water, but of life itself. The skies darken with smoke and screams as disease wipes out the last fragile thread of humanity's survival. Our livestock, pestilence, livestock die-off, and global famine begins just as the wild beasts tighten their grip on the outskirts of every collapsing city. The next blow lands, an invisible, silent killer that sweeps across the globe without mercy. It doesn't strike humans first. It targets what's left of our food chain. Within 48 hours, every domesticated animal critical to global sustenance begins to die. Cattle fall in pastures, vomiting blood and collapsing under their own weight. Pigs convulse in their pens. Chickens, ducks, goats, sheep, all livestock begin dying in droves. No matter the continent, no matter the breed. Zoos, farms, rural villages, factory agriculture, all see their animals rot and perish simultaneously. Globally, the collapse of the food supply. Meat becomes extinct overnight. Milk vanishes. Eggs are gone. Leather, wool, manure-based fertilizers, all rendered useless. Supermarkets are stripped bare. Refrigeration fails as power grids teeter under earlier plagues. Crops already crippled by water scarcity and frog infestation now have no organic fertilizer or plow animals. Nations declare states of absolute emergency. Military reserves of emergency food are consumed in days. Black market food traffickers rise overnight. Canned meat becomes more valuable than firearms. Pet food is eaten by humans. In some areas, pets themselves are eaten. But even wild game is being hunted to extinction or already dead from the same disease. In regions dependent on meat and dairy, like Argentina, Texas, Mongolia, Ethiopia, entire cultures face spiritual collapse. Centuries-old traditions die in a week. Economic collapse follows closely. Agricultural industries representing trillions of dollars vanish. Stock markets already closed in many places lose all relevance. Biological fallout and ecological collapse. The animal plague is total. Lab-grown meat facilities are no refuge. Cells die in incubation. Cloned livestock perish even before birth. Something is attacking the concept of domesticated life itself. Environmental collapse accelerates. Carrion piles up. Billions of decaying bodies that can't be buried, burned, or ignored. Flies breed uncontrollably. Bacteria and parasites swarm. The air becomes thick with disease. The stench of death becomes the global atmosphere. Scientists, reduced to skeleton crews operating from bunkers, attempt autopsies. The findings are inconclusive. Fast-acting, non-bacterial agent triggers internal hemorrhaging, organ liquefaction, and neural collapse in every known mammal or bird that has lived among humans. It has no known origin, no traceable genome. It is, in every sense, a divine pathogen, cannibalism and moral breakdown. And with no food left, the line begins to blur. Across the globe, whispers begin to circulate, then broadcasts. Human meat markets. The unthinkable becomes reality. Not just survival cannibalism in remote regions, but organized, open trade in parts of Europe, South America, and Asia. Parents euthanize children with painful birth defects just to feed their other offspring. In once modern cities like Berlin, Sydney, and Chicago, manhunts begin, not for criminals, but for food. Cults embrace it. The flesh is the new bread, some preach. This is the final trial. Religion fractures further. Some believe this plague is a reset button. Others believe it's the prelude to judgment. Humanity begins consuming itself. A global famine with no end. Unlike historical famines, there is no hope of recovery. No aid is coming, no new harvest, no livestock to rebuild herds. And now, no ethics, no government, no shared truth. Just packs of survivors, paranoid, starving, and waiting for whatever comes next. But just when the world begins to burn the last of its morals for warmth, a new pain arrives, one that cannot be eaten, reasoned with, or escaped. Blisters erupt, skin peels, boils form. Every body becomes a battlefield of pain. Boils global medical emergency. There's no warning this time. No lead up, no visible source. One morning, as survivors sift through ruined cities or hide in isolated shelters, it starts. Boil. At first, it's just a burning itch. Then, a welt. A blister, then dozens. Painful, festering boils erupt across every inch of skin. The face, back, groin, armpits, eyelids. They swell, burst, and ooze pus and blood. The pain is unbearable. And it spares no one. Young or old, rich or poor, healthy or sick. It spreads indiscriminately, not through contact or air. It simply appears, simultaneously, across every continent. A health crisis without medicine. Hospitals, already overrun or destroyed, cannot respond. Even underground medical bunkers go dark. Most of the world's doctors are either dead, suicidal, or infected themselves. Clinics become torture chambers. The few remaining sterile environments are stormed by mobs seeking relief. There are no antibiotics. Global pharmaceutical supply chains broke during the blood plague. Even if drugs were available, the boils don't respond. Not to antibiotics, not to surgery, not to fire. Burning them only causes deeper wounds. Lancing them leads to hemorrhaging. Traditional medicine is useless. Alternative medicine becomes dangerous superstition. People begin turning to old religious rites, anointing themselves with oil, praying, bathing in blood, but nothing works. The boils keep multiplying, the breakdown of the human body. The physical consequences are horrifying. Faces become unrecognizable, eyes swell shut. Joints stiffen as blisters form in folds of skin. Boils open under fingernails, inside ears, on tongues. Movement becomes impossible. Sleep is a fantasy. People scream for hours, then days, before falling unconscious or dying from infection, shock, or blood loss. Even wild animals, once predators, begin to suffer. Wolves limp through ruined cities, faces bulging. Birds fall from the sky mid-flight. The plague doesn't care about the food chain or natural order. It is a plague of suffering, and all living beings are targets. Spiritual collapse becomes total. By now, there's no faith left, only fear. The boil plague, as it's dubbed by the last surviving digital broadcast, becomes the universal symbol of despair. It is unrelenting, mocking. Entire communities begin ritual exits just to escape the agony. Others go mad, skin mutilated, and faces twisted beyond recognition. Cities now look like open wounds. Slumped bodies ooze on sidewalks. Rivers run with pus. Every step squelches. Flies rule the air. Skin peels from corpses like wet bark from a tree. Boil. Infected blood gets into remaining water supplies, contaminating even glacier melt and rainfall. Flesh becomes an emblem of punishment. Survivors wrap themselves head to toe in blankets and armor, not for protection, but to hide their disfigurement. Mirrors are shattered. Beauty is dead. Hope vanishes. Whatever strength remained in humanity, the illusion of survival, the desperate hope for rebuilding, is gone. Civilization is not just collapsing. It has rotted. From the inside out, and no matter how high people climb, how deep they dig, or how far they flee, the boils find them. Always. But even as the human body breaks under plague and pain, the sky begins to crack open. The world turns its eyes upward, not in prayer, but in terror, as fire and ice begin to fall from above. Hail and fire, infrastructure obliteration as humanity crawls through disease, starvation, and despair. It begins to rain, but this isn't water, not mercy. Hail the size of grapefruits crashes from the sky, tearing through rooftops, smashing skulls, obliterating vehicles. At first, it's mistaken for freak weather. Then it gets worse. Fire begins falling alongside it. It's a phenomenon beyond any meteorological explanation. Hail that burns, stones wrapped in flame, descending in sheets across the planet. Annihilation from above. This isn't isolated. It's everywhere. Flaming hail decimates refugee camps and what's left of cities. Those still hiding in skyscrapers are crushed or burned. Suburbs ignite like matchsticks. Solar panels, humanity's last hope for sustainable power, are shattered. Wind turbines snap like twigs. Satellites are struck in orbit, creating a cascading debris storm that blacks out global communications. Air travel ends permanently. Any aircraft that takes off is shredded mid-air. Airports become cemeteries for scorched steel and ash. Roads melt into twisted rivers of black tar. Trees explode into flame. It's as if the earth itself is under siege from the heavens. The collapse of shelter and power. Any infrastructure not already crippled by the previous plagues is now annihilated. Power grids collapse in full. The last functioning nuclear plants go offline after sustaining damage, risking meltdowns. Hydroelectric dams burst. Solar farms are incinerated. Emergency bunkers are crushed or caved in. Internet cables melt underground. Water storage tanks explode from impact. Even reinforced military installations suffer breaches. And with shelter gone, the exposed masses suffer. No walls, no roofs, no safety. People attempt to dig holes, create makeshift trenches, or cover themselves in debris for protection. But the fire follows. It sifts through ruins. Homes that survived floods, frogs, and beasts are now burned to the foundation. Entire cities vanish in hours. Pyres dot the horizon. Ecological destruction and atmosphere breakdown. The Earth's atmosphere begins to shift. Smoke from burning forests darkens the skies. Solar radiation spikes through holes in the ozone, increasing skin cancer and heat stroke. Winds become violent. Ash rains continuously. Climate scientists, those few still alive, report a planetary anomaly. Temperature swings of 70 degrees between day and night. No ecosystem survives. Crops are ash. Livestock is gone. Oceans are polluted. Glaciers melt faster than ever, then freeze again under volcanic, like winter storms. The Earth is now a battlefield of extremes, existential collapse and final fragmentation. This is no longer survival. This is witnessing the wrath of something bigger than logic, bigger than history. The few remaining people don't look for solutions, they look for meaning. In the flames, some believe they see faces, voices, messages. Others fall completely into madness. Worshipping the fire as a god, whispering to the hailstones as if they are messengers of fate. Technology is now folklore. Language collapses into primal screams. Maps are meaningless. The planet, once charted down to every street corner, is now unrecognizable. And above it all, the sky continues to burn. But just as fire wipes out the last of the harvest, a new sound fills the air. A buzz, a hum, a roar. The sky darkens, not from smoke this time, but from a living cloud of ravenous wings. The locusts have arrived. Locusts, the final agricultural extinction, just when the earth seems incapable of sustaining further horror. The sky changes again, not with fire, but with wings. Billions of locusts emerge from every direction. Deserts, swamps, forests, ruins. They move as one, forming living clouds that blot out the sun. Their arrival isn't scattered or random. It is surgical, targeted, precise. Every remaining crop, every hidden garden, every last green patch of growth is their target. They don't just consume, they erase. An ecological genocide. In mere hours, entire regions are stripped bare. Fields already limping from drought, frog infestation, and ashfall are torn to pieces. Greenhouses, hidden farms, vertical crops grown in secret hydroponic tunnels, all consumed. The few who still held hope of growing their own food, of surviving through seeds or scavenging, now watch in stunned silence as the future is eaten alive in front of them. Locusts do not spare forests either. They devour leaves, bark, fruit, and flowers. Insects that previously pollinated plants vanish as locust swarms wipe out their habitats. The very air becomes toxic with wing dust and insect refuse. Survivors can't breathe. The wings clog lungs. People suffocate mid-run. The final collapse of food. If famine was already a death sentence, the locusts sign its execution order. Global seed banks are overrun. Hidden agricultural laboratories, once protected by military barricades, are breached as locusts find their way through ventilation systems and soil storage. Farmers commit exit in groups, watching the land they fought to save dissolve in 1,000 buzzing jaws. Even fungus gardens, algae bioreactors, and synthetic food farms are infiltrated. Whatever didn't burn in the firestorm is now chewed into pulp. The earth has stopped producing sustenance. It is no longer fertile. It is devoured. Cultural and psychological erosion. Religions that spoke of renewal, springtime, rebirth, cycles now go silent. The locusts feel final, absolute. Myths from every corner of the world resurface. The devourers, the sky swarms, the angels of hunger. Even those who rejected faith before begin to pray, not for deliverance, but for an end. In some places, mass executions are offered to appease the swarm, though the locusts are never interested in flesh. They seek only green, life, energy. As a consequence, even language shifts. Survivors stop talking about the future. The word itself begins to fade from use. Biological aftershocks. The biological aftermath is catastrophic. Without plants, herbivores vanish. The few wild animals not already dead from boils, fire, or starvation now collapse in the absence of vegetation. Oxygen levels begin to drop as rainforests are stripped. Co-levels surge. The air becomes harder to breathe. Temperatures rise again. And then comes the silence. After the buzzing ends, a silence more terrifying than the noise. Because it's not just food that's gone, it's growth. The planet no longer supports forward motion. The plague hasn't just targeted life, it's targeted hope. But when the locusts leave, they take the light with them. Not metaphorically, literally. For the next plague plunges the world into a darkness deeper than night. A cosmic blackness that suffocates every remaining flicker of will. Darkness, psychological collapse of society the day after the locusts vanish. The sky offers no dawn. There's no sunrise. The world is plunged into an unnatural, suffocating blackness. Not night, not eclipse, something deeper. The sun doesn't rise. The moon doesn't glow. Stars vanish. No light reflects. No glow remains. It's not just the absence of visibility, it's the total removal of light itself. And it lasts 1 hour, then 6, then 20, 4, then 3 full days. A terror deeper than death. People light torches, but the flames are feeble. Flashlights dim prematurely. Fires struggle to stay alive, as if the darkness itself consumes energy. No source of light, artificial or organic, can pierce the thick black. The psychological damage is instant. Humans are not meant to live in true darkness. Panic attacks skyrocket. People scream at nothing, shoot at imagined threats. Some gouge out their own eyes, convinced they're already blind. Others begin to hallucinate. Visions of shadows with eyes, whispers without mouths, memories speaking back. Families go silent. communities fracture. The world becomes a prison cell with no walls. Time stops meaning anything. Without light, the concept of time collapses. Circadian rhythms break. People sleep at odd intervals, wake in confusion. Hunger fades. Speech stutters. Some simply sit down and never stand again. Religious leaders call this the moment of true reckoning. Some claim it is the literal descent of hell upon earth. Others believe the darkness is sentient, a conscious, watching void. Digital clocks blink endlessly. Screens still flicker, but cameras capture nothing but black. Satellites, though still functioning, show no reflection from Earth. It is as if the planet has gone dark in the eyes of the universe itself. The death of civilization's last thread. The last global communications collapse. The few ham radio operators, the final podcast survivors, the encrypted military networks, they all go silent. There's nothing left to report. No remaining authorities. No light, no food, no medicine, no governance, no gods. Just darkness. And the soft sound of people going mad. In shelters, people begin attacking each other out of fear. Children disappear into the void, never found again. Some speak of hearing voices, ancestors, demons, lost loved ones, guiding them into the black. Whether they followed is never known. Even animals go quiet. Wolves no longer howl. Birds don't chirp. The frogs are still. It's as if all living creatures, for the first time in Earth's history, pause together. In some regions, entire populations die of fear. Not starvation, not injury. Just absolute mental collapse. The terror of the unknown made flesh in an endless horizon of pitch, and then a flicker. On the third night, just before the fourth sunrise should come, there is a flicker, a faint beam of red-orange light. Not from the sun, but from a distant mountain. A fire, a signal. People crawl toward it. Some cry, others laugh hysterically. But then the light dies again. And in the final hour of the third day, light finally returns. The sun rises not over a world of hope, but over a graveyard of what humanity used to be. And then the final plague begins, the most personal, the most cutting. One that no wall, bunker, belief system, or science can shield you from. The death of every firstborn. Death of the firstborn, the final blow to humanity. The sun returns, but it brings no warmth, only silence. Survivors, stunned by the darkness, step into the light like ghosts. For the first time in weeks, there's clarity until the screaming begins again. It's not a plague of fire, insects, or madness this time. It's death, quiet, instant, and targeted. All firstborns die. Not just children, not just the young. Every firstborn of every family, regardless of age, location, health, wealth, or belief, is struck down. Men in their 60s, firstborn daughters, infants only minutes old, gone in a breath. There's no convulsion, no disease, no warning. Just a stillness. A heartbeat stops. A body goes cold. A light goes out. The personal apocalypse. Unlike the previous plagues, this one isn't broadcast on a global stage. It doesn't flatten cities or darken skies. It tears through the human soul, one family at a time. A mother wakes up to find her oldest child cold in bed beside her. A soldier slumped over his rifle, his comrades too broken to move him. A president collapses during a bunker meeting, leaving no successor. This isn't symbolic, it's systematic, calculated, unquestionable. Each household is marked. Mass graves are hastily dug, then abandoned. No one has the strength to bury them all. Bodies are left in hallways, under blankets, in cribs, in stadiums. And for those who aren't firstborns, the emotional devastation is complete. Every remaining person has now lost someone, a sibling, a parent, a leader, a lover. No one is untouched. No one is unbroken. Societal collapse becomes absolute. The global structure, already cracked, now crumbles entirely. Succession lines in governments, corporations, religious institutions, all shattered. Firstborn CEOs, generals, monarchs, commanders, heads of families, gone overnight. There is no chain of command, only chaos. Communication networks, what few still buzzed with weak signals, fall permanently silent. Power plants unmanned. Emergency zones leaderless. The world goes from apocalypse to annihilation. The last banks of scientific minds, those who clung to logic, now fall apart emotionally. Grief eclipses reason. Experiments are abandoned. Data servers crash as no one remains to maintain them. The digital age flickers out. Humanity no longer has the will to survive. Not after this. Not after the people they loved most were chosen for death. The last flickers of resistance fade. There are no longer rallies, no more prayers, no resistance groups, no last stands, no hidden bunkers of scientists working on a cure. That was the narrative of earlier disasters. Now there's only quiet. Whispers in empty homes, fires flickering in the distance, and the sound of wind moving through a dead world. A world where the firstborn are gone and the secondborns, what few are left, walk as shadows of who they once were. And still, no explanation, no demands, no visible God. Just a silence that screams, this was always coming. And so we come to the end, not of the plagues, but of us. What remains is not a society, not a civilization, not even a species with purpose. Just survivors stumbling through ash, memory, and questions with no answers. The aftermath, a world of ashes and survival, the plagues are over. No more rivers of blood, no frogs, no lice. No lice, no death in the sky or fire from the heavens. No more screams, because there are so few left to scream. What remains of Earth is a scorched, decaying husk of its former self. Forests are blackened stumps. Cities lie in ruins. Oceans boil with the bodies of fish, dead from tainted rain and famine. The air smells of rot, smoke, and silence. And the survivors, they are not survivors in the heroic sense. They are ghosts wrapped in skin, drifting through ruins with no destination, no structure, and no hope of rebuilding. The death of civilization. There is no electricity, no internet, no governments, no farms, no livestock, no economy. The entire system that humanity built over thousands of years has collapsed completely. The tallest skyscrapers are burned out husks. The greatest inventions of mankind, jetliners, smartphones, satellites, digital networks, lie useless, buried in ash or rusting under blackened skies. Money has no value. Language is fragmented. Science is forgotten. Libraries are looted for warmth. The last remains of recorded history exist as tattoos on skin, stories whispered in caves or scratched onto stone by trembling hands. What's left of humanity is feral, scattered. Some form nomadic bands, trading bones and scraps. Others form cults around the idea that the plagues will return if they displease whatever unseen force delivered them. Others wander alone, speaking to themselves or not at all. And still, no explanation ever comes. Theological reckoning and philosophical collapse. Was it divine wrath? A cosmic reset? A punishment for sins we no longer remember? Religions have either dissolved or mutated. Some worship the darkness. Others make offerings to the memory of frogs or to the boiling sky. A few believe they are the chosen, kept alive to bear witness. Most just wait, for death, for meaning, for nothing. Even belief in time fades. Without calendars, clocks, or light cycles, people measure days by the pain they feel or the number of dead they pass. Morality is obsolete. Survival is reduced to its rawest form. There is no right or wrong, only alive or not. Nature mutated. What little life remains is twisted. With no pollinators, no seasons, no cycle, nature begins to mutate in chaos. Trees grow sideways. Insects form colonies in bone piles. Animals born in this post-plague world are sickly, blind, or hyper-aggressive. The environment is no longer sustainable. It's predatory. Humanity is no longer Earth's dominant species. We are intruders, tolerated only until the last heat of our blood cools. The final understanding: in this silent, broken world, one truth becomes clear. We were never invincible. We built towers, satellites, laws, and systems, but we forgot humility. We dismissed myth. We thought ourselves beyond the reach of legend, beyond wrath, beyond reckoning. And in that arrogance, we proved our fragility. Because it wasn't just the plagues that ended us. It was our belief that we couldn't be ended. There is no rebuilding. There's no rebirth. There is only what comes after the end. But before we close the book on this apocalyptic vision, let's reflect on why it matters. Not as prophecy, but as a warning. So what if the 10 biblical plagues return today? It wouldn't be a test of faith. It would be the unraveling of modern civilization itself. In an interconnected world of delicate systems, industrial dependencies, and billions of people packed into megacities, each plague would be a trigger in a chain reaction, collapsing supply chains, governments, belief systems, and ultimately, the human psyche. This scenario isn't just about divine punishment or religious metaphor. It's a brutal reflection of our fragility, our overconfidence in technology, our illusion of control, and our inability to imagine a world where myth becomes real. The lesson isn't that ancient forces might rise again. It's that our civilization is a tower of glass, beautiful but breakable. And in the right sequence, 10 catastrophic events, perfectly timed, we fall like dominoes. The world wouldn't just be destroyed by supernatural wrath. It would be undone by its own complexity, its own denial. In the end, it may not take divine judgment to end us. Just a few perfectly placed disasters. If you found this exploration chilling, thought-provoking, or disturbingly possible, consider subscribing. Here, we dive deep into alternate realities, hypothetical disasters, and the terrifying what-ifs that force us to question everything we take for granted. Because sometimes, fiction is only a few steps away from reality. Subscribe, share, and comment below. Which of the 10 plagues do you think would bring down our world first? Or has one already started?